Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm going to show you how to rebuild a governor on an 8N Ford tractor. These techniques also apply to a 9N and a 2N Ford models as well. So you would know that your governor needs some repair or needs to be replaced if your tractor is sluggish when you try to rev it up, or maybe when it's underneath a load. It might idle okay, but then when you try to give it the gas and rev it up, it would be sluggish. That's a sign that your governor needs repair. So in order to remove the governor from the tractor, there are two bolts. There's one at the top and one at the bottom. Pay attention when you remove these bolts as to what order they come in. One's shorter and one's longer, so that when you put it back, you don't damage the cam. So just take note of that when you're removing them. Also, there's an oil inlet up here, and then there's two connections here. One's for the throttle, the other's to go to the carburetor. That is removed just with a ball and socket here. You just push that forward and it releases. So that's how you remove both of those. If you are working on either a 1951 or a 1952 model 8N Ford and it has a tack, that will be near the back of your governor, and you'll want to remove your tack line as well. Once you have it off the tractor, there is one screw right here. You can see the indentation. And so you'll need to remove that screw right from your governor. Then you might need to give it a whack like that, and then it will come apart and pull apart like that. Now we can rebuild whatever parts need to be rebuilt and also analyze it properly. During inspection, we noticed that there's a groove here from the balls rubbing through there. That's bad. We'll want to replace this housing. You can also see on the outside how there's portions where the balls were looking like they were going to break through that housing. That's pretty bad. Yours might not be as severe. Yours might look more like this one, where it's just a groove. You don't see the evidence from the outside of the housing. But either way, this groove is bad, and we'll need to replace the housing on the governor. I have two governors here because you can see that the linkages are different on the outside. This one is for a 9N or a 2N. This one's for an 8N Ford tractor. So I just have those both so you can see, depending on what model you're working on. You also will notice when you are taking this apart that the rollers might be worn. You can see that this one has a lot of flat spots on it. That's bad. That might be your problem if you discover yours has flat spots on it. So we'll go ahead and take this apart. There's a C-ring up here that will just snap off. There's a washer, a collar, and a bearing. Then you'll take the race off, and then you'll see all four rollers inside here. If you look closely, you can see that this is worn as well. You can tell that it's worn all along all four of those parts where the rollers are. Next, you'll want to take this assembly apart. You might be able to beat on it and get that apart, or it might come apart a little harder. In that case, you'd want to use a vise here. So you can just use a punch and put it here, and then just gently tap. You don't want to tap too hard because this is aluminum. You don't want to do damage there. And there it came out. That part's separate. And then this will come right apart. The bottom portion of your race assembly does have a bearing in here, so we want to remove that. This bearing does have some play in it, and also the top of this portion is grooved from years of wear. So we remove that completely, and then we'll replace it. The new kit from Steiner comes with the bearing in there. So you just set it down there, work gently when you do this, use a brass hammer to press it down, and go until it's flush. I have this portion on here. You can see that it's flush on there. Also, it moves freely. You can see the bearing in the bottom here. If yours does not move freely, it might be that you pounded too hard and you've done some damage to the bearing. So make sure that yours does move very freely. Now we're ready to put the cage in. This part is directional, so pay attention to having this portion up, and that drops right in there. Next, we'll put this drive on. This is a new part. This drive is the same part that you got out of the governor originally, because ours isn't damaged. And so you can bring it over here and put it in the vise. If you have a press in your barn, a press would probably work better, but we wanted to demonstrate on a vise, thinking that you would probably more likely have a vise in your shop. Then you can put your drive on here. Make sure that you get it straight. Again, this part is also directional. I'll show you how I have it. And this flat part goes towards the governor. Okay? So we'll set it on there and then just tap it lightly with a brass hammer. You don't want to be too rough on this portion. I'm going to press it down all the way until it reaches this point. My drive is flush here. You can see how that is. Also, it spins very freely. That's important that it spins. You'll see here on this case that none of this is worn. This is the new part that I put on. So the next step is to put your 4 rollers in. These just drop into that portion, like that. Make sure that they stay, they're all the way in, and then you can drop your race on top there to complete that assembly. Next, there's the bearing that slips on. Then you put this collar over top. Then there's a washer that goes all the way down. And last, you put this C-clip on there. I want to show you how easily this works and that the rollers are functioning properly. You can see that expand when you turn the gear on the bottom. That's definitely how you want your portion to work. Now let's talk about the housing. We will want to remove first this elbow that's on the outside here. That just screws off. When you loosen it, be careful how you grab it. You do not want to squeeze this way on it and wreck the threads. Instead, you want to squeeze this way and turn and remove that whole elbow out of there. Then on the inside, once we have that removed, you can see inside there, if you turn this slightly, you'll see a pin inside of there. You want to push that pin down so that this portion of the governor can come right out. You'll probably have to beat pretty hard. I'll do it here and show you. I got my punch in here. This needs to be up a little bit, so I'm just going to set this underneath there so it will hold in place. And then that pin will take it right out. Okay. My pin came out, you can see that. This wishbone portion will stay inside the casing, and then this whole portion will come right out. There's the pin you can see there that we were pushing out. Here you can see the wishbone coming out. Pay attention to which way that comes out, because we'll put it back in the same way. We have numbers on ours, and the numbers face up so we can see them. If you are using the same housing when you reassemble your governor, if yours wasn't worn and you're going to put it back, then you'll want to replace the bushing that goes in the bottom of this. You can see that ours came out in pieces. Yours might too. That's okay because you're just putting a new one in. So that sets into the bottom of the housing, and then we use a socket that's a little bit wider than the bushing is, and just feed it down in there. That goes pretty easily. You can see that the bushing is now in the bottom of my housing. Next, there's a seal on this portion. Here's the seal that we removed. We just used a screwdriver to pry it out. It might come out a little bit hard, but it's important to replace the seal. Your new seal comes in the kit. Notice that it is directional here. So ours goes in this way. And I'll bring it over here to the vise so that you can see us putting it in. I'll just tighten up the vise so that it gets a hold on it. Make sure that your seal goes in straight. This is just so that oil doesn't come out the side of it. And then just gently tap the seal right in there. Our housing was bad, so we're replacing it completely. When you purchase a new housing, it does come with this bearing in the bottom, and it does come with the seal. So we don't need to do that. This housing is generic. You'll see here that this is where you would put your tap in if you have a 51 or 52 model 8N Ford, or if your tractor doesn't have a tap, then you just leave that cover on there. So now we're ready to put this wishbone in along with this drive. That goes this way. So you can slide that through there. Our seal's already in there, so we're set to go. I pushed it this way, and then it has to go through this wishbone. Remember to put that in the right way as it is directional. It will go all the way in and across, and then we'll put this pin right back through that hole. My pin is in the wishbone there, and this is working properly. Also, my spring is attached. Make sure that yours is. It might come unattached while you're working on it. Then we'll take this entire race assembly. It's ready to drop in. You can notice that there is a notch right here. You'll see it on yours. You have to line that notch up with this side, which is where the screw is. So I'm going to line mine up and drop it down in there. There we go. Okay. It's all the way in there. You'll see that my notch is lined up, so I'm ready to put the screw in. This is the same screw that we took out, the exact same one. And we'll screw that in all the way. Also, you want to put your elbow in on the outside. That just screws in again. And then we're ready to put it on the tractor. Okay. When you put your governor back on your tractor, make sure that you put the shorter bolt at the top and the longer one at the bottom. If you mix that up, your bolt will get caught on the end of your cam and do some damage. That's a common mistake that a lot of people make that you can avoid. Also, there's a gasket. Use some gasket sealer on both sides, both on the housing and on the tractor itself. Insert your gasket there, put your bolts back in, hook up your oil line as well as the line that comes from your carburetor and your throttle, and then your governor should work properly. You'll notice you might hear a little bit of sound inside my governor when I move it. That's okay. When I put the whole race assembly back in there, I knew that all 4 of those rollers were in between where they should be, so that's okay that they're moving around and you hear that. Don't be alarmed as long as you know that you put that in properly. So once you have your gasket and everything back on your tractor, your governor should function properly. You should be able to rev your tractor up and especially use it underneath a load.